This meeting is a meeting of the school board in public for the purpose of conducting school corporation business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There will be time for public participation as indicated by the agenda. The meeting site is fully accessible. Any person requiring further accommodation should contact the superintendent at the school corporation central office. I'll now call the meeting to order. If you please stand, we'll observe a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. We do have everyone here this evening, which means we have a quorum. Mission statement. Mrs. Hutchison.
Lebanon Community School Corporation will cultivate and reach every student by influencing and enriching their lives through the power of education, and will do so in a positive and safe learning environment.
Great. Thank you. Item 2, approval of minutes for the July 19th regular meeting. I'd like a motion to approve those, please.
I'll make that motion.
Second, please.
Second.
Any comments, discussion on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item 3, superintendent announcements and celebrations. Dr.
Well,
Milliman.
thank you. I just have a few this evening. Obviously, want to thank our staff, parents, students for a great start to the school year. A couple challenges, of course, with transportation. We have a couple rather large street projects happening in the community that we're navigating around. But congratulations to Becky Nichols and her staff for helping us out with that, and to everyone that's got us off to a great start. Want to take a moment to congratulate our Tiger Pride marching band for their 6th place finish at State Fair Band Day, and they are still out there going at it. So they're going to be re-engaging with the ISMA contest circuit this fall, so you'll get to enjoy hearing them on these fall nights throughout this fall, and I think they'll be doing that full time next year. So congratulations to Mr. Kessler and all of the participants in marching band. We open our home football season this Friday night. Invite the board to be there. It's always exciting to get that kicked off, as is seeing the cross-country team running around the streets of Lebanon, and the golf team out and about, and tennis as well. So it's just great to see all the activities. We'll be having some theater students ramping up here as well. So all those and extracurricular activities have been great to see, and that is really all I have this evening. Is just thank you to everyone for a great start.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Item 4, consent agenda for staff matters. Dr. Milliman.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to try to get myself organized here. I had the wrong sheet open here. All right. I am sharing this evening for your consideration under classified, one building secretary for Harney Elementary this evening, 4 instructional assistant / study hall supervisor position at the high school, so 3 instructional assistants and study hall supervisor here at the high school, and 4 food service positions this evening. For certified this evening, we do have some teacher resignations. We have 4 teacher resignations this evening, as well as 1 educational consultant. That is a joint services position. That particular consultant was servicing in the Clinton County schools, but as you know, we are the fiscal agent, so that resignation comes through you for approval. We are also recommending several teachers this evening. Mrs. LeCrone is recommending Aaron Vaughn for kindergarten teaching position at Central. Dr. Dye is recommending Daryl Mendoza. Thank you for attending the board meeting this evening. For a 3rd grade teaching position at Harney Elementary. Mrs. Salmon is recommending Emily Keller for special education, and Krista Looper, if I'm saying that correctly, for a 2nd grade position at Hattie B. Stokes. Amber Moore is recommending Jessica Fox for 1st grade teaching position, and Leslie Holler for a 4th grade position. Doyle Dunshee is recommending Amanda Stevens for an English position and Bailey Burcham for social studies position at the middle school. And we're welcoming Carrie Holloman back to the high school with Mr. O'Rourke's recommendation for her to rejoin the social studies team here at the high school. Dr. Dye this evening is recommending 4 teachers you see listed there to fill mentorship positions for the new teachers at Harney. You may recall that as an added positions within our master contract in the last contract. Dr. Dye is also recommending Stacy Hoovermill and Rebecca Warren as co-sponsors of the running club. Mr. O'Rourke recommending Mr. Reniker. He is actually our percussion instructor for the marching band as the fall musical director. Ms. Scoble is recommending Mr. Matthew Coddington as the boys' head soccer coach. And I believe I have a tendency to leave one out, but I think I got them all in this evening. That's all I have for staff matters this evening.
Great, thank you. Board, I'd like a motion to approve the consent agenda for staff matters, including classified, certified, and ECA as presented.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments?
We do have at least one certified position still unfilled at this time, and several, won't go into, it changes daily for the classified staff. We are understaffed in custodial, we're understaffed in food service. We're always hanging by a thread as far as substitute bus drivers go, but it was a struggle today. We had some issues today, but we got them covered. So we are still, as Mr. Dennis pointed out in the budget session, that is a struggle. So before you ask that question.
Do we still have the employees that helped last year, are they still able to do so this year? Is that still part of?
In which capacity?
For the bus drivers, I'm sorry.
Yes, matter of fact, that's what got us over the finish line today. Yes, we had 2 drivers ill, and then for various personal reasons, there was, I believe, at one point, we had 7 afternoon routes today uncovered, which that's a significant number. We run about 38 routes, so if you do the math, that's a significant percentage. Becky did a masterful job of getting those routes covered this afternoon. So we're not done holding our breath when it comes to drivers. We're not over the hump yet. There are still quarantine requirements involved with the COVID. So those have to be honored, obviously. So that will take drivers out if we lose one. So getting a long-term, even a week, it feels like a long-term sub to be available to cover those routes. So there may be still a few of those calls going out as the year progresses, but doing the best we can. Food service is very much struggling to keep staff there. I think at one point we were 9 down, I think, and in 5 kitchens. That's because we have one satellite that we prepare the meals at the middle school for Central, so we have 5 kitchens, but that's a significant number with this size district to be down 9 or 10 food service workers. So, and we get to change directors in the middle of this beginning of the year as well. Again, wishing Jennifer luck, but that is a struggle that we're continuing to fight.
Okay. Any other questions, comments on that? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Do we want to introduce our new teacher this week?
Welcome.
Wanna-
Welcome to LCSC. We're happy to have you. Yeah, so thanks. Yeah, it's a little rare that you come for the approval, so we're happy to see you this evening.
I'm happy to be here, extremely thrilled, and I just told Dr. Guy, I said, I want to be involved. We don't have kids yet, but one day we will, and welcome to the school corporation.
Well, we're happy, and background is in social work, bilingual, brings us a lot of great skills to Harney, and I try to have an opportunity to sit down with teaching candidates as they meet with Melanie, and I had the great opportunity to do that with you. We had a nice chat, and the kids are going to have a great year. So you got a great support team. So.
There's a lot to learn, and I'm excited. I'm really
Yeah.
thrilled.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. We have a ton of consideration.
That's great. That's great. And congratulations, fairly new home as well, so congratulations on that. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
There's a lot of Hardy Littles, so they're.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how many third graders are in my neighborhood. I've been an advocate for this from day one. On the Facebook page, I already wrote, like, slow your car down. I don't have kids yet, but I don't want you to hit kids. Be nice to the children, don't yell at them, be community, you know, the typical, not mom, but I'm a mother hen kind of thing.
Yeah. Congratulations.
I've earned the parents' respect already. Thank you.
Well, welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you for coming tonight. It's nice to meet you. All right. Consent agenda for business matters. Mr. Dennis.
Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Keith and Board and Dr. Millman. We'll start with the financial update. Provided in your board packet is our traditional financial update of the month-to-month comparison with last year, as well as the current calendar year of cash balances per fund. Should there be any questions on either of those two financial updates, I'd be happy to take any questions at this time.
I think we're good.
Okay. And I would like to request your approval for claims then for the prior month, and those claims totaled $1,678,774.45, and those two payrolls totaled $1,587,316.32, for a total of $3,266,090.77. Appreciate your approval of those claims.
Okay, thank you. Board, I'd like a motion to approve claims for payments 56056 through 56204 and payrolls for July 22nd, 2022 and August 5th, 2022, as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Second? Go ahead. Questions or comments on that? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, item 6, comments from the public. There is no one signed in to speak this evening, so we will move on to action items. Okay. Could you, I'm sorry, do you have, is this someone you know, or?
What's your, no, it's
Okay.
not.
I'm sorry, I'm a little caught off guard. Could you step to the microphone, please? No, we have a sign-in sheet, just so you know, that's sitting up here.
I'll sign in certainly afterwards. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Mark.
I'm
Genda.
sorry, excuse me. We do have a policy that does not allow any kind of political, and I see your candidate.
Right.
So you are welcome to introduce yourself, but please don't campaign.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Okay. My name is Mark Genda, and I am running to be your district rep. And I also had 2 years of school board, 2 terms of school board experience. So as I've been listening to some of the school boards that I've been going to, trying to introduce myself, it brings back a lot of fond memories. I appreciate everything that you are doing here as school board members, and I know at times it can be very difficult. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks,
Nice to
Jane.
meet you. Thank you. All right. On to our action items. Request approval of amended minutes for the May 17th, 2022 meeting.
Thank you, Mrs. Keith. A housekeeping item, Melanie discovered there was an error in identifying original minutes recommended Vicki Williams for a part-time school psychologist position that should have read Lynn Williams. So we just want to go back and amend those minutes so that we can have that correct in the historical record. So just a housekeeping item this evening.
Okay. All right, Board, I'd like a motion to amend the minutes from the May 17th meeting to reflect the corrected name to Lynn Williams.
Make motion.
Sorry, I'm making sure I have the name the correct way. It is supposed to read Lynn
I know,
Williams.
I've
I didn't have
superimposed
it
it twice
backwards.
myself.
I know. Okay. You made a motion. A second on that.
Second.
Okay. Questions or concerns? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. B, request approval of revised SRO agreement.
Thank you, Mrs. Keith. This is a request to amend the Student Resource Officer contract for Mr. Albert Hendricks from 200 days to 180 days. Note to the board, this is due to the employee's request for personal reasons, and Mr. Hendricks services students in the buildings for primarily the 180 school days. So in working with Mr. and Chief Smith, we were happy to accommodate that and bring it to the board for your approval this evening.
Okay, thank you. Board, I would like a motion to approve the revised SRO agreement with Officer Hendricks, please.
I'll motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments on that? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. C, request approval of renewed teacher appreciation grant policy. Mr. Dennis.
Thank you, Ms. Keith. Each year, the Department of Ed requires us to bring to them a teacher appreciation grant policy, and that is due by September 15th of every year. And so in the August board meeting, we like to bring our policy. In the policy, it outlines how we'll distribute the teacher appropriation grant that the state gives us to our teaching staff. This policy is unchanged from last year and simply reflects an update on this year.
Okay, great, thank you. Board, I'd like a motion to approve the renewed teacher appreciation grant policy as presented.
I'll motion.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Any questions on that? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Request approval of resolution to transfer reoccurring amounts from education fund to the operations fund for
Yes.
2023.
Thank you. So before you is a resolution for our Education to Operations Fund transfer. I have that at $285,000 monthly for the first 6 months of 2023, with that increasing to $295,000 from July of 23 to December 23. And I will say that is an up to amount. We always could choose to transfer less should we choose to, but it will not exceed those amounts.
Okay. Great, thank you. Board, I'd like a motion to approve the resolution to transfer these recurring amounts from the education fund to the operations fund in 2023.
I'll motion.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Any questions or concerns on that? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. E, request approval of contract with Your Money Line.
Thank you. So before you this evening, Board, we've got a contract with a company called Your Money Line, and that was established by a gentleman by the name of Peter Dunn. You may have heard of Pete the Planner elsewhere, and he began a company that is essentially financial coaching. We can't say financial advisors because that word actually does have legal meaning. But a lot of our school peers are contracting with this company, and the reason is, quite honestly, to defease student loan payments. There is a public servant student loan forgiveness program in place, and it has been in place, but the fact that there's a lot of puzzled looks out there and amongst everyone is not known very well that this exists. And what these folks do is they help their clients, in our case, our teachers, and quite honestly, any staff that may have undergraduate student loans. And if they're serving in a public capacity, such as a public school teacher, they will walk them through the application process from beginning to end in order to defease those student loans. In a previous employment of mine, I witnessed personally this company, and it was a much larger employer, but more than $2 million of student loans were forgiven on that teaching roster. And so I have personally seen the benefit of this company. It is a 3-year contract, and I will say that this would be the first expenditure that I have planned for the operating referendum that was passed on May 3rd of this year. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, and otherwise would appreciate action on that contract.
Okay. Well, first of all, Board, let's get a motion to approve, and then we can ask some questions. Anyone like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Second? Okay. So is that the only service they provide is regarding student loans, or they do other things as well?
So it's not, and they would, and I'd be remiss if I didn't bring that up, and they would want me to as well. That, I would say, is their flagship service that is obviously the most marketable that they could provide. But so the term Your Money Line is a little bit of a play on words. It's a telephone number, so a phone line is where that comes from. So our staff would have dedicated financial coaches, and they could answer questions such as, I'm thinking about a new car payment. Can I afford this car loan? Is this particular house payment? In fact, a former coworker of mine had a standing Friday meeting with her coach where they would walk through an Excel spreadsheet that they helped her set up and enter and budget her entire monthly expenditures. And where this ultimately comes from is, we want our employees coming to us every day ready to be great educators. And many studies would corroborate the fact that financial weight that you're experiencing in your personal life comes with you to your professional life. And certainly financial distress is just as powerful as maybe some of the other types of distress that employees could come with that we would think of more traditionally. So these folks help their clients navigate any financial decisions, not just the student loans. So thank you for that question.
And is it unlimited? Could a teacher call an unlimited amount of times, or do they have a certain?
So this is what and in fact, I'll disclose this, that should the board agree with this, Pete the planner has agreed to come on site to hear 11 schools and meet with our staff in person, and explain to them that, and I love this because I've heard him give this speech, that we have nothing to sell you. He will tell our teachers that you feel free to call us whenever time because we have nothing to sell you. The administration obviously is paying for this contract, so there's no upsell that can occur, and so he encourages them to call as often as they see fit in order to meet their goals from the financial standpoint that Your Money Line can assist them with.
So to be clear, they are not an investing group.
No, this is
They are
purely
advice.
advice. Yes,
This is an added benefit to the teachers, is what,
I
in essence.
agree. Yep, yes.
So, in the scope of work, do we have any stated outcomes? Do we want them to, before we say, is this worth the investment or not, do we have a number of, we want you to speak to this many staff, teachers? Are there those kind of?
So what I'll be able to come back to the board with is, on a quarterly basis, we have what's known as an account manager, and our account manager will provide metrics of engagement, and so that will include new callers, how many times those callers call back, total number of engagements. So, if John Smith calls 10 times, that number will go in. If somebody calls 1 time, so total number of engagements. So there is quite robust data that will come along with our account manager, and then because they know that the student loan forgiveness is an important part of their service, they can provide that update on the schedule of defeasance and how many true dollars of student loan payments were able to be avoided by our staff. So data metric is provided. As far as a guarantee of that, I don't believe that they can offer that moving forward specifically, but we will have metrics of how the service has proven its worth.
I see that it automatically renews after 36 months. Will we evaluate this on an annual basis as well and make sure we don't, because then it's at an increased price at that point?
Yes, it would be the intention to enter into negotiations on whether or not we want to continue and for what price we would want to continue before the auto renewal date.
How long have they been doing this?
So when my previous employment, I believe we were the first K-12, maybe the second K-12 customer, and at the time, so I've been in the fall of 2019. I'm not aware if they were in business prior to that, although I assume that they were. So at least 2019, perhaps further back than that.
Any other comments or questions?
I think it's great. I like the idea, younger teachers that we're starting to bring along board. I know when I first started out in my career field, that would have been a definite benefit to have something like that along those guidelines. So I like the idea of it. Hopefully he can report back to us and see how successful it's going to be for our teachers, young and old, not just young.
Yeah, I think it could help with retention as well, because we are hearing about, I haven't from our district, but, teachers leaving their profession because they're not making enough money, and maybe if they had the help managing what they were making, it would be a more feasible career, so I think it's.
And along with retention, I think it's a tool to use for advertising for hire.
Uh-huh.
Not all school, I don't know how many, but not all school districts offer such a thing that could benefit them, and I think that could be a big plus.
I think it's a good overlap as well. You mentioned they're not financial advisors. Well, we also provide that to our teachers as well through our partners at Edward Jones, and so I think it's a good team effort on the financial side. So.
We spent some time talking about staff wellness. I think this is, in my view, it's another avenue of that. We have some ideas we're working through on the health and wellness side as well that we'll share with the board when we get it in a shape that we can feel comfortable doing that. This is something that we have some experience with. Mr. Dennis has experience with. My colleagues, some other districts have as well. So it ties into that staff wellness conversation that I know we've had as well with the board.
So when he comes in, is that going to be on one of the staff training days?
Right.
Or
If the board decides to approve this engagement with Your Money Line, we have a administrator meeting tomorrow, and that will be one of the topics Mr. Dennis will talk to the principals about, is how do we want to get this in front of the staff in a meaningful way, and how it will work with them, and the schedule and the process that Pete uses in that process. So
It was a good process in discussing all this because, as you can see, the contract term begins October 1st, but I asked them to not expect invoicing until after the new year due to the referendum not being, we can't spend money until January 1st, and that gives us a chance to onboard, so everyone will get a login, and that gives us a chance to onboard our teachers from October 1st until December 31st. And Stephen, who I'm working with there, made a great point, is we'll be ready to roll this out on January 1st when everyone's making their New Year's resolutions, and a lot of folks have financial goals as part of that New Year's resolution, and we'll be ready to go right then. So they aren't expecting payment until after the New Year, since we don't have authority to expend those dollars until after the New Year. So I did want to bring that to the board's attention.
Okay.
I believe they have some marketing as well that they do to teachers as
robust.
part of their piece, because something like this is something that needs to be in front of you often.
They'll forget it's there.
Repetitive,
They'll forget that they
don't
have the
forget,
service,
don't
yeah.
forget. And so they have a marketing arm that does that we'll be able to push out. Jen will be able to help push out, I'm sure, but that'll be big. Just basically bug them in a good way. You need to use this resource. So.
Okay. Any other questions or comments before we vote? All right. All those in favor of approving a contract with Your Money Line signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right. F, permission to advertise with the budget. Mr. Dennis?
Yes. So earlier this evening, we went through the budget presentation, and I'd like to remind the board that I'm asking for your permission to advertise our 6 budgeted funds. That would include the new operating referendum, the education fund, the debt service fund, the referendum debt service fund, operations fund, and rainy day. It is my intention to ask for your permission to advertise. It is my intention to wait until certified net assessed valuation is released by the county. I do have to advertise this budget within 10 days of our next board hearing, September the 20th. So it would be my intention to wait until September 9th unless we were to get those numbers sooner. Along with that, I also have to advertise our 3-year capital projects plan as well as our 5-year bus replacement plan. Happy to answer any questions on that, but otherwise, respectfully requesting your permission to advertise the 2023 budget and the capital projects plan and bus replacement plan.
Okay. Board, I'd like a motion to give Mr. Dennis permission to advertise the 3-year capital projects plan, 5-year bus replacement plan, and 2023 school budgets.
Motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Obviously, we just met and discussed the budget prior to this, but are there any more questions regarding any of that? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
I guess just to note that it's going to be advertised high, just so everybody knows,
Oh.
it's going to be advertised high. But we will be under that by a significant amount, actually, in the end, correct?
Yes, if you're referring to the levies that will be advertised are, especially in the 2 debt funds, are high because of the 2 possible debt scenarios. So one of those 2 debt service levies will come down significantly, to use your words, Mr. Parks, and as a result, then I would also say the budget itself comes down significantly as well.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. G, request approval of proposals for professional services with, I don't know how to say that. Attica, thank you.
So before you tonight are in fact 2 proposals, one of which is for a consulting study on our roofing within the district, and the other would be our what I'll call our building envelope, which would be our walls and their integrity. And what this study provides, if you flip through the proposal, and we can start with the proposal on the roof management plan. What Etica will provide is actually quite a robust analysis of not just the condition of our roofing and our building envelopes, but they will provide a detailed plan for anticipated replacement. They will actually core the roof. Roofing can be addressed in a variety of ways in commercial buildings. Roofing can be removed and replaced, or it can simply be laid over the top of what's already there. And it's important as you're preparing bid documents to know exactly what is going to be removed and to be able to tell the potential bidders what that might be. And Etica would provide that in this particular engagement. We would end up with a 3-ring binder. I know that seems archaic. I assume it would probably be digital as well. That would specifically outline, even what sections of the building. The building that we're sitting in right now cannot be re-roofed in one summer. It's too large, and so it has to be roofed in sections. And so they would plan that out. And as I spoke earlier, when we plan for these capital expenditures, these types of expenditures are too much for the operations fund, and debt would need to be secured. Debt revenue would need to be secured to pay for these things. And having this plan of replacement literally year by year is a very powerful tool for us in the business office to plan when we need to take debt out. So again, the reactive versus proactive. And I don't want to give the impression that a duplication of efforts is happening here. Gibraltar did complete an extensive study of our facilities, and what they were able to return is the conditions of all facets of our buildings, including the roof as well, but from a standpoint of when they were installed and when the serviceable life would likely end on a material of that nature. Depending on the installation quality and quite honestly a lot of other factors, service life may or may not be what it's supposed to be, for good or for bad. It could not last as long as it's supposed to, or it could last as long as it's supposed to. So both of these investigations, the roofing and then the exterior wall assessments, sometimes this is overlooked. A lot of people, when they think building envelope, are interested in roofing, but mortar joints on some of the precast concrete that these buildings are made from, mortar joints in masonry, those are almost as egregious for water infiltration as a roof is. And if you're not investigating the walls of your buildings as well, some of this tuck pointing can fall out and cause issues that can be mistaken for a roofing issue when it's truly a wall issue. So I did have Etika prepare these two separately in case you didn't like one or both of them, quite honestly. So that is why this is not one entire number. And that is why you have these two proposals in front. Should you have questions about one and not the other, or maybe don't agree with one and not the other. So happy to answer any questions over these two items.
Would these be done simultaneously or, okay.
Yes. So I believe the timeline of delivery is that I would have a plan for both of these for the next 20 years by December 1st of this year.
Is your plan to do more of this with other components, or with it, because to me it makes a lot, I'm a engineer by trade, so planning long-term, putting long-term plans together for all assets is beneficial. I know this covers these two. Is your plan to continue to do or look into other avenues as well, and other professionals to assist in that, to do more of a holistic, long-term preventive maintenance planning?
Short answer is yes, and the reason I bring the Etika one to you is they're specialists in building envelope, and I think our architectural partners would likely strongly consider using them regardless of this to design roofing for our buildings in the future. But absolutely, to answer your question, I don't know that there's specialized firms like Etika for everything else versus our architectural partners that we're working with for construction and items like that. But this is the type of information that I'm seeking to be able to plan physical plant maintenance, facility maintenance for years in the future. I would say I'd want a minimum of 5 years of a really good idea of what we want to do.
Just for the board, I mean, I've worked with Etika in my professional career there at Great Bern. I did not know they did this. They do the type of engineering we do in surveying, and they are an excellent firm. One other question, I see the infrared, the discussion for the roof. Would you like authority as needed? Because infrared actually can be phenomenal on that as well, seeing heat loss, everything else under. And I don't know if they'll do it with a drone or what they would do, but, or are you just, they would come back if they feel it's necessary on a certain building, and then we at that time would do a supplemental agreement, or?
Yes, that was my intention to, should they bring concerns that would warrant that level of service, I would want to bring that back to the board and discuss what buildings specifically they have concerns with, and then request your approval to engage further with them and raise the proposed amount.
Because it would be excellent to see if holistically if the roof isn't, but other areas that through some minor modifications, you could actually capture heat loss and keep
If I'm
it from
reading this
happening.
agreement correctly, if the board approves this, we would already have the approval to do that at $29.50 per building, if needed, because that's part of
If
this
that
agreement.
would be.
That's the way I read it.
I mean,
That It says if infrared scans are requested, it would be
But it'd be
an
an additional service cost.
Right.
So it would be a supplement to this, is that I read
Right.
it, but
But he would
I'm all
already, he
for
would already
giving
have the
authority
authority, I think, if
to
you
that
approve
if
this,
it's
is the
deemed
way I
At
read
that
it.
cost.
That's the way I read it.
Yeah.
You're just saying, we understand that's
That way
gonna be a
it's there
cost.
and it's-
I would think if
Right.
it's an additional cost on top of that or something
Yep.
different, it would need to be brought back, but no, I would read it
Right.
the same way.
You'll
that-
still have to prove the claim.
Right.
Yeah.
That's part of
But
your
that
work.
would-
so-
$29.50 per building.
Per building.
Right.
It is cool to see too, viewers. I mean, it's really
You just want to
neat.
be there that day.
No, I mean, to see the end results
Right.
of things that we utilize
No,
infrared
that
for,
sounds-
it's excellent.
Right.
All right. Well, we have them listed as one action item, so I'm going to go ahead and ask for a motion to approve both together. If that is not
We put
satisfactory,
them
we'll
together, just,
we'll
and then
divide
you have
that.
the option to separate them through a motion if you needed to,
Yeah.
but it's
So-
cleaner to put them together if you liked them, so.
I believe so.
Yeah.
So, Board, I would like a motion to approve the roof management plan and exterior wall assessments, both from Etika.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Any further questions or comments on that?
I think it's great that we're preparing for, future needs,
Mhm.
Yeah.
service.
Preservation
long run.
rather than reaction.
Right.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Approval of building trades donation, Mr. Dennis.
I'm very grateful of the board's permission to spend so much money tonight. I'm happy to bring a donation to the board at this time.
Doesn't
Uh,
quite offset what we've spent, but thanks.
Understood. So we recently closed on our buildings trades house, so we to remind the board, we've got a class that literally builds a home every year. And that board, the Building Trades Board, has traditionally provided a donation back to the school corporation to help offset the cost of that instructor's salary. And so I'm happy to bring that donation to you tonight of $7,500 and request the board's approval of that donation.
Okay, thank you. Board, I'd like a motion to approve the donation from building trades.
One motion.
Okay, second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right. Mr. Martin, Central Elementary overnight trip to Camp Tecumseh.
It's back.
Seems like I just asked for a Camp Tecumseh
That's
approval.
what I
I think you did.
That's what it's supposed to happen. They postponed the trip last year for the fourth graders, so this year it's fifth graders they're going to make the trip.
Okay.
Same thing happened in our office. Mel says, "You just did that." Yeah, it is a duplication only in that it's the same place, but this is fifth grade since they didn't get to go last year.
Okay.
September 11, 12, I believe. Sorry, I let it close.
October.
Yeah, October, yes.
11 and
October
12.
11 and 12. Camp Tecumseh.
Okay.
Indiana.
Very good.
Excellent trip.
It is a great trip. Exhausting trip.
Yes.
But it's fun.
It is.
Thank you. Board, I'd like a motion to approve the Central Elementary fifth graders taking an overnight trip to Camp Tecumseh.
One motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Questions or comments on that? Just glad that we're getting these trips back online.
Yeah.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Any additional informational items?
We do have an information item this evening. We have our friends from Gibraltar. You'll see their faces as well as faces of construction managers starting next month with updates throughout. So board can get used to these frequent updates. And I'll let Mr. Thompson and Mr. Kingery share with you what we've done to date and what we have in front of us here in the next 30 days or so.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Members of the school board, Dr. Millman, Mr. Dennis, nice to see everyone. Hey, congratulations in public, first time I've seen you in public. Job well done.
Thank
Great
you.
leadership, great community, great school district. You guys are on the move. All about making best better. And we see the vision with you. A couple of things we just want to do tonight, as Dr. Millman said, kind of give you an overview of our planning and approach, some of the things we've done, probably do a touch on some reminders of the past. And then I'd like to have Chris Kingery, our Chief Education Officer, talk to you a little bit about a couple of things we have done and are planning to do with your school leadership, because we know that it was important to you to have that input at the elementary leadership level for now what will be the mission that we move forward with. Again, it's all about the children, the learning environment, and where you want to provide those opportunities for the advancement of your Cubs to Tigers. Some of these you've seen before. We probably won't need them every board meeting, but it always is good to remind ourselves that we are a group collectively that has focus and keeping our eye on the ball. One of the other things unique to Lebanon Schools is that you are a growing school corporation. That was set forth over 2 years ago when we started with you, and you'll continue to monitor that. I heard Dr. Millman mention in a couple of meetings, even yet today, that school capacity sometimes can be a moving target, but I think we'll get our arms locked around it with the school leadership and arrive at what are the capacities for the elementary schools.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second, Board. It's just a point of information. I was in contact with Dr. McKibben in the last 24 hours, our demographer that we worked with in 2019. He happens to be in the area. We were unable to connect because of that phone call we told you about earlier today. But he actually was working with a couple Hamilton County schools today, so I haven't talked to him since, but he was driving our district. I'll continue to stay in touch with him on updates, pulling building permits, looking at those numbers, seeing if we need to revise any of our projections in relation to growth. So we are staying in contact with him and trying to keep our hands around it.
Excellent. So again, this map kind of helps us and reminds us where we're going to address some of these growth issues that Dr. Millman just mentioned. You've seen this before. I think one of the things that will be significant when we're done with this mission and vision with you as a school board, you'll be over 1 million square feet of school facility under roof when that happens, and that's a big number. I like this just as a reminder as we're ramping back up into the project planning and schematic design, all the way through bidding and construction. Our firm and that of Meyer Najim, we're constantly going to be going back to, okay, are we meeting this goal? What's the next goal? And having dialogue with your school leadership team. And Mr. Dennis certainly has a financial stewardship mindset, which I've known you as a school board and Dr. Millman have had from the get-go as well, even in the dialogue tonight about protecting assets, preventative maintenance, those types of things. So these mission statements with learning and how we're addressing those are important. We won't lose sight of middle school and high school as well, but we're obviously going to start in earnest with the elementary school for you. And this does touch on some of the things we mentioned before about when we're all done and you have to operate the buildings, and then you'll have other aspects of learning environment comfort. Teachers, I think, they just want to be comfortable, right, so that they can do their jobs, which are challenging enough. And same with students. We know now a lot about fresh air and about temperature and how that affects ability to focus and those other things that we're mindful of. Let me turn things over to Chris and talk a little bit about what we've accomplished with programming.
This slide is not new to the board. It was part of a conversation that we started in 2019 that I was bringing to the board from conversations with principals, learning walkthroughs in the building, and it's really a mix of pulling together what program is working right now in the elementary schools that they want to see in that new elementary school, and then also what are some of those needs that exist in the current elementary buildings that would carry forward. And when we started that conversation in 2019, we have some new school leaders, we have new staff. And so we started that conversation recently with our school level leadership at the elementary level to just really, at the time we started in 2019, continue that conversation with mask on in 2021, which I'm sure everyone was thinking how a school should be designed to protect against a pandemic, but we are past that. And so we wanted to start that conversation again. And so the next slide will actually show you how we plan to carry this forward with our new principals, with our new staff. And so starting on August 10th, had the opportunity, thank you to Dr. Millman and Mr. Dennis, and valuable time with the principals to be able to meet here and go over that elementary learning experience and what it should look like for every single child in Lebanon schools. And then also carrying forward that program benchmark of what should be included in every single building. So next steps, wanted to make sure that you are aware of the input plan. The week of August 22nd, we'll have the opportunity to meet with each building principal and their school improvement committee to go over our work with them to get their input. We want to get the input of the staff that is working in those spaces in each building. And then the week of September 12th, we'll be bringing that product that results from those conversations and input to each staff during the week of September 12th. And then happy to report on September 20th, what we bring back is that culminating product that is developed through all of our learning and time with staff over the next month.
So one of the other things that will be happening as we are working with Meyer Najum, our partners, I felt like you might appreciate knowing that, because we haven't talked about this before, but as we design and think about all the things that have to happen, there's a process behind the scenes to the extent Dr. Millman or Mr. Dennis wants you as a board to hear about it. We can certainly bring it forward, but these are just things that happen relative to, so for example, the bottom two bullet points. When you're working with renovations and additions, there is an aspect to constructability. Is the best outcome when we're all done with construction feasible and practical to assert during the construction phase? How do we get through that with an existing building under operation and with students still learning? Because your business of school and learning will not stop, but the construction will need to go on going. You have a great partner with Meyer Najum, and Gibraltar Design certainly is, for our 30 years of experience, always been aware of what are some of the, sometimes they're subtle, minor modifications. They're not compromises to your end goals, but they might be subtle adjustments that will make the constructability go better and more smooth. I also believe that, and it seems like more in recent years, it seems like construction's exciting, teachers are excited to be here in Lebanon schools, and so a little bit of disruption, they're like, let's do it because we know that it's only temporary and the bigger goals are going to be met, and people like Jim will be gone as architect and construction people will be gone, and you'll have the benefit, or they will have the benefit of what you, the board, has set forth to do. So, but we're all aware of that, and it's just some things we do to make sure that type of constructability, and it's just sort of inherent with what we do, but I felt like you would want to hear it mentioned tonight, and you'll have an opportunity to speak with Meyer Najum as well. Okay, so do y'all remember this? Manipulative? I thought with school year starting, I'd bring back a lesson. So remember, this is an answer to two very important questions. What does this represent? And why is it important to Lebanon schools? It represents 1 square foot. It's how we measure what Chris just mentioned as we get from the school improvement team and your building principals. How do we get these things accomplished? We use square footage, and we know that it's important to all of us because it can be expensive and costly. We need to be mindful of the cost to build new, mindful of the cost to renovate, and as I said, when we're all gone, Mr. Dennis and your team have to operate it at an acceptable budget level. So all those things come into play, and it's a great reminder of the center of the target, the bullseye. If you like narratives, here's a nice way to read some of the things that accomplish that goal. So next steps. Chris mentioned we've had some walkthroughs. We'll be having some coordination meetings with Meyer Najum to get that coordination and help them really catch up and get a nice foothold. Chris mentioned staff meetings. We've actually had one working team meeting with your financial advisors, bond counsel, and all the people that help make all of the funding and make all that happen. And then we like and we appreciate Meyer Najum also knowing the value of having a schedule, a planning schedule, to put things together for bid months and how many months for construction, all those types of things. So that type of planning will occur. My sense is in September, hopefully in manageable doses for you as a school board. We'll be able to show you some of those pieces, perhaps a work session, and just help you see that everything is well laid out and well organized with a schedule so that we can accomplish our missions. I'm optimistic in believing that by October or November for a goal that we'll have what's probably most meaningful to you as a school board, which would be like schematic plans showing the end goals being met and how the design might come together for each of the schools. After that, we're hard at work doing drawings and specifications and the machinations of the detail. But I think by October and November, both with the benchmarks being set in September, we are going to have schools that do these things for your learners. And then you'll be able to see that visually and set us off on our course to get the hard work done.
Okay.
I'm sorry we couldn't set a record for you, Ms. Keith, with
I
Mr.
had no
Parks'
illusions that it
blazing
would happen
record.
tonight.
But I do see the clock, and I wanted to finish
Thank
by 8
you.
o'clock for you. So
No.
if there are any questions, Chris and I are happy to answer those. I'd just like to end by, again, expressing our appreciation. You are a delightful group to work with. I've known Dr. Millman for years. It's just incredibly awesome and a real privilege to work with all of you. So thank you very much for this. We're excited and on our way.
Thank you. It's exciting to see things start to roll and meetings happen, and yeah.
That October timeline Jim mentioned is kind of as our target aligns with what Mrs. Keith brought up during the budget presentation about the substantial completion milestones and dates. Then we have some targets we have to hit as far as design that will meet the requirements that Ice Miller has laid out. So that's that target that you were talking about, is that constructability milestones that will allow you to consider how you're going to sell these bonds to make it all happen.
Great. Very good. Any other questions, comments, anybody?
I would say I'm excited to have Meyer Najum on board as well. I was impressed during their interview, and excited for the other board members that didn't meet to be able to meet Meyer Najum as well. Looking forward to what the two teams combined can bring, or the team combined can bring. So.
We had exciting walkthroughs, and Dr. Millman stood in the back and just watched the conversation between Gibraltar and Meyer Najum. And I looked over and he said, I'm enjoying watching this happen.
It was a very quick.
I think we scheduled 4 hours, and
Yeah.
then you guys moved on. We took the conversation to the parking lot.
You
for
did.
another
It was great.
45 minutes, so.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that impresses me about these two teams is, and Jim touched on it a little bit more eloquently than I will, is efficiency. One of the things that Jim and I have talked about over the years is finding it's not a compromise in your standards, but sometimes there's a more efficient way to get there. And through experiences we know with Meyer Najum, they have some technological tools and they have some experience in that field as well. And so I think I pay taxes in this district as well. So I think that to me is something that I like to see, that's the mindset that they'll bring, not compromising of standards, but can we get there more efficiently and make sure we're not making mistakes during renovations where we're drilling the hole in the wrong place and then we're re-drilling a new hole in the right place and patching the hole where it shouldn't have been. That's the type of kind of relationship I really, truly believe these two teams are going to be able to bring to the table, and that's exciting to see. So it has been great. So thank you.
Next time you see this, we'll have Gibraltar and Iron Age.
Very nice. Thank you. All right, any other informational items this evening? Anyone, anything? Okay, upcoming meetings, September 5th is Labor Day, no school. Our next meeting here is September 20th, and professional development on September 28th, no students.
That's right.
Okay, we're already talking to the end of September.
I know, right? Could be the end of the first quarter poll before long.
Wow. Okay, if there's nothing else, we